Welcome to Precipice, where we learn how to live life at the edge without falling off the cliff. This is episode 7, and we continue with our discussion about deficit financing and how it affects mental health. Before we start, I would like to invite us to check out our new YouTube channel titled Precipice. You can access the channel from the link at the sidebar at precipicedecisiontraining.com. Now, let's go on. My name is Adetutu Ijoshi, and I'm your host. I'm a business and wellness advisor, consultant, and coach among the many hats that I wear. For people who find my name difficult, please call me Miss A, which is what many people already call me. That's easy to pronounce and remember, okay? Last time, which was episode 6, we started to pivot to financial considerations, having built a foundational understanding of our foods affect our attitudes and productivity from episode 1 to episode 5. We pivoted to begin building other foundational understandings. Consequently, in episode 6, we pivoted to finance and started to build a foundation of an understanding of how and why we are in a financial precipice. We are seeking to answer the question, what does finance have to do with our attitudes? Okay, remember that we need money to get through life at the edge. We need money to buy the right kind of foods, to provide roof over our heads, to provide telephone, electricity, and other services we need to survive at the edge, as we have all lived in a world that has shortened the night by generating artificial light, shortened communicating channels with the telephone, made it easier to make friends through social media, and so on. And we need to maintain all of that. And we have all been paying for all this, not by spending actual money, but by a mechanism called deficit financing. And not just here in the US, but globally. Everyone is at the precipice. I encourage us all to get our friends and relatives in other countries to listen to our episodes and become members, as we are all in the same boat. Now we have learned that deficit financing in layman's language is the art of borrowing with no hope of paying back the money borrowed or the interest as a means of financing life's wants and needs, while pretending to at least pay the interest by borrowing more to pay off such interest. This means never-ending cycle of borrowing. As you may have guessed, this is poverty disguised as wealth. Various nations copying the US in a bid to provide the same standard of living quickly to their citizens to prevent them becoming demoralized all jumped on the deficit financing train in a bid to get themselves classified as rich countries regardless of how poor they really are. It was based on artificial country-to-country borrowing and lending and perceived borrowing and lending to corporations and governmental agencies. In addition to direct borrowing and lending, we also have some accounting gimmicks that help to create the balance of whatever we need to lend to other countries or corporations and to use. This way, we create an illusion of wealth to finance our lifestyles as a nation. Our wealth is not backed by anything. It has no foundation. This is where we stopped last time, and we will build on that today. Now, let's go on. Because we in the US did not lend to everyone evenly, we created rich and poor nations, not based on the reality of their wealth, but based on how loyal we felt they were to us. We 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 decided which nations would be poor and which would be rich, and doled out the money we borrowed from everyone as we pleased. We paid for goods and services with artificial money. No real money changed hands, only paper entries. Consequently, the countries we borrowed from were the same countries we lent to, leading to global poverty as no one has money. Everyone is just borrowing from and lending to others based on perception and not based on reality. Every other nation is also artificially creating wealth that does not exist and using that to sustain its lifestyle. This borrowing and lending is done by using financial instruments such as treasury bills, bonds, and other financial instruments which we sell to generate funds and which really are supposed to be paid back. Instead of paying, we just issue new instruments. These instruments are then traded on the various stock exchanges. This is one of the reasons why the financial markets seem to be doing well, though the economy seems to be in trouble. It is an artificial market that does not reflect the reality of what is going on in the economy. That is why everything seems, so confusing. And our mental health is being affected by the difference between what we see in our daily lives, with higher prices, supply chain issues, sanctions, factory closures, housing market busts, and so on. We can feel and see that the economy and of not just the US but globally is in trouble. We have not been recovering from the various economic woes, from disasters, recessions, pandemics, tornadoes, and on and on and on. We just use accounting gimmicks at the national level to provide more deficit. And the percentage of our national income that comes from Wall Street casino-style operations keeps on getting higher, meaning that we do not really have an economy. It is a make-believe, dependent on how much longer we can get the other nations to play along. It means the global economy is on borrowed time. It is a bubble that can irreparably burst at any time, depending on the code that has been put in place by our Maker God to prevent what we are doing from completely destroying nature as a whole. It means we need to remember we have a Maker who alone knows the way out of the maze that we have put ourselves into. It means a Maker whom the various nations have chosen to rebel against is in charge, has always been in charge, and already has a timeout for this system. That is the reality. Today, there is no homework, as this has been heavy lifting. To fully chew on what we have learned so far, I will advise that we listen to this episode as many times as we can to enable us grasp the enormous nature of where we are. Do you feel anxious knowing all of the so-called wealth is fake? Do you feel the pull of the gravity of nothingness that is the foundation of our so-called wealth? Next time, we will conclude our discussion about deficit financing, which will give us a financial foundation about what we are really dealing with financially. Can you see what we're doing? We are confronting our fear, so we are able to recognize how far the ship has sunk and look for safety. We can see where the cliff edge is and avoid being pulled over. How do we do this? The answer is by acknowledging the problem and looking for ways to stay grounded. If you want to get ahead of things, I have provided all the information that we shared last time, and today, and what we'll be sharing next time as a members only PDF file available on the sidebar for members. If you're a member listening through Blubbery, Spotify, or any of the other channels, please go to precipicedecisiontraining.com, scroll down the sidebar to the members only section, and access the file. I will advise that you subscribe to this podcast if you're listening right now and have not yet subscribed. Click on one of the various subscribe buttons available on the website to see the list of the various channels and how you can subscribe through them to receive notification when episodes are posted. If you normally listen through the website, use the email subscription option to provide your email address. And you can subscribe through the various channels that you are listening on right now. If you are not yet a member, what are you waiting for? Join today at precipicedecisiontraining.com. If you're a member and have some comments to make, please do so. Do share that. If you are not yet a member and want to comment, just sign up today and you can start commenting and get your voice heard. I encourage everyone to become podcast members and to use the tools provided to get the most from our 10-minute conversation. Membership of this podcast costs only $4 per month, which is a little over 10 cents a day. If you get the quarterly membership at $10 per quarter, that is about 10 cents per day. It actually costs less than a cup of coffee in many places where we go to buy coffee to be a member on a monthly basis. It is so easy to be a member. It also helps to keep this podcast on the air. You can also donate as little as $5 to help us. If you have found this podcast resourceful or useful, consider becoming assisting us. Invite all you know to listen and encourage them to become members and or donate. To learn more about today's mental health challenges, get a hold of my various books, including the book Lessons I Learned the Hard Way, available at Amazon.com and other online stores in print or ebook format. You can find a link to my author page at Amazon.com at the sidebar at precipicedecisiontraining.com. To learn more about the best foods for your lifestyle, go to foodsthathealdaily.com or wildlifesolutions.com. These are both membership websites and cost $10 per month to be a member on any of these two websites. And you only need to be a member of one. You get the other website complimentary, and you also get membership of this podcast complimentary. Consequently, there are many ways to get access to members-only content. Our next episode will help us to begin to harvest the benefit of what we have learned so far. Now we know there is a lot of unavoidable chaos in our everyday lives. By the end of our next discussion, we would have a foundation of understanding in the financial direction to help us understand that there are some financial issues outside of our individual control that, unbeknown to us, affect our attitudes, mental health, and productivity, and invariably affect our financial decisions. We have been tackling the issue of deficit financing. We will end today's episode at this point. Do come back as often as you need to and listen to this episode and the other episodes available. See you next time, and until then, here's to your success as you navigate your way through life at the precipice. Bye for now.